please welcome the Head of Business Development at Northern Marine Group with a big hand, Mikael Karlsson. Welcome.
Tack så mycket. Går jag igenom? I'll do this in English, and I hope people stop and listen as you walk by. I think I have an important message, so if you don't know this, what I'm about to tell you, you'll know it about in 20 minutes. I'm here to talk about saving costs. At the end of this speech, I would have been saving your catering costs by 10%, and I would have removed your environmental footprint significantly. I founded Impasave in 2020, not to make a business case, but end up doing that, but trying to save the planet and our oceans for the plastic in it. But before I go on, I want you to understand that I need you to embark on my journey to get the full picture of what I'm about to say. A little bit about me. I am 52 years old. I'm head of business development in Northern Marine, part of Stena. I'm very passionate about what I do for a living, for my work. I'm also very passionate about my family. I got 2 boys and my wife. We have a sailing boat and we live in Norway, so I'm very familiar with this area because I've been here a few times, visiting the islands. When I don't work and I don't sail with my family, I also coach a very talented football team up in Norway called Sarpsborg. We've been playing IFK Gothenburg and Häcken and have a pretty good record against them, and we will continue to do so. We'll be playing them against the Borås later on this year. So I am very passionate about sports. I'm very passionate about my work, but I wasn't passionate about environment 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I knew nothing, absolutely nothing, until one day. But before I get to that, let me ask you, do you know what this is? Do you know these 2 islands? Anyone? Correct. It's Kungsön. It's just south of here. The other one you don't know because that's 17,000 kilometers away from here. And that is actually what my speech is about and what entails the rest of my story. So Kungsön, this is the one. I've actually been with my boat right there. It's a magnificent place. It's paradise in Sweden, to be honest. This place is called Lord Howe Island, and this is where my story begins. It starts with trouble in paradise. I want you to imagine, now join me here. I'm sitting on a couch, I'm watching a documentary, and I watch a bird being picked up and tube fed afterwards, I think. But it's been flushed with water. And now you're going to guess to my next point. It's flushed with plastics. This beautiful picture right here is actually a mosaic picture here from Gothenburg. I don't know exactly where it is. This other picture right here, there's plastic bits and pieces from a single bird on Lord Howe Island. And the population had declined by 30%. And immediately I pick up my phone, I start Googling the plastic situation in our oceans. I had no idea. I feel like an idiot. Why don't I know this? I sail the ocean. But then I'm reminded, I'm born here in Sweden, I'm grown up in Denmark on sandy beaches, and I stepped on glass many times as a kid. You don't step on glass anymore because it's all been replaced by plastic. So you don't even notice it anymore. But back then, I was always wary about if there was glass in the water. I don't think about it anymore. So this morning, before I came up here, I went around this island. I went to the beach for 10 minutes with my colleague Jan. I don't know where Jan is. He's here. It took us 10 minutes to pick this up between the rocks here in Donsö. So go forward. I want you to imagine that Donsö is Lord Howe Island. So I want to do something with it. So I showed up at a trade show with this around my waist. It's on the picture. Just to prove a point that we need to be careful about how we use the plastics. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. I just want to prove a point. I meet this lady, and she wears this nice bracelet. I copied her. I got one too. It's made out of lids from cans. But what she did beach cleanup. In fact, she did a lot of beach cleanup. And that's where I got the idea. Why are we cleaning up the beaches? We got to get to the source of the problem. And I know you're thinking, oh, but shipping isn't the source of all the plastic in the ocean. It's the big rivers. I'm aware of that. But we do have a part to play. And this is where I come in. So Kiko Matthews encouraged me to do something about the beach cleanup because she didn't want to do the beach cleanup. Now, I come from Ship Supply, where Carl also comes from, who's standing right here. And I know that we are delivering a lot of water, and I know I can't spill annually, so did that mistake, but we are buying between 12,000 and 18,000 liters of water annually for commercial ships. That's about 50,000 ships, and I'm not even taking the ferries, the cruise lines, the oil and gas, just commercial shipping. And just to quantify that, that's 1 billion bottles or liters of water a year delivered to our ships. That's enough to make a bridge to the moon from the Earth this wide annually. So I called a few big ship owners in Copenhagen and Norway and Singapore, and I told them about my idea of removing all the bottles from all the ships. And they said, that's a great idea. Let's have a look at it. And now it comes to the head of this speech. Making a good choice in procurement. Because this little machine here is no bigger than this. From the ship's evaporator systems and reverse osmosis system, it can actually produce clean water on board the ships. That's probably even better than the one in plastic. And I've been to Singapore a few times, and the plastic stands outside the ship supply companies in the sun. I don't know what happens inside. You guess. My point was that I was actually able to remove all the water delivered to ships by employing this machine on board. And I thought, that's a brilliant idea. And it is. It's probably the best business case I ever made. The other thing I did, I was removing the waste. And if anybody here is familiar with MARPOL and X5, there's a line in there that says, reduce your waste on board. I just took the big wastes on board away from you. Plus, I saved you $1,500 in waste cost annually. And then I made the business case. And this is a bad business case, but you're still saving money, and you get your ROI by employing 2 units in less than a year. On year 2, you have absolutely no cost on this. Most shipping companies spend between $70,000 to $80,000 annually procuring food for the ships. You're spending $7,000 to $8,000 just buying the water. So whoop-de-doo, I just saved your catering costs by 10%. So what's not to like? And that's actually my big question, because I've been at this for 5 years, and I thought that I could do a new initiative every 3 months, because this is everybody's gonna jump on this. They're not. And that's why I'm here today. Because I don't think I got anyone but DFS committed to ImpaSave, but I need the shipping companies here on the island to commit. You can count Stena, but they're on board. So I always ask myself, why so few? So, are you still with me? Good. So I wanted to say no to single-use plastic on board your ships. If you're in procurement, do your boss a favor, save cost. It's $7,000 a ship. It's quite a lot of money. Now, one thing leads to the other. And this is where Carl comes in. I was challenged in London 2 years ago. Thank you. 2 years ago, I was challenged in London. They said, but Michael, do you know the data? What's your emissions? You're taking all this water on board, you're putting a machine on board. What's your emissions? I said, I don't know. I just know it's a good idea. I had no idea. And said, but you can't go on not knowing the data. So I said, okay, get me the data. So we did a life cycle assessment on this, where we took the machine against all the water you put on board. And I went on the low side, 12,000 bottles. This point right here equals 354 bottles. And by the way, you're putting 12,000 of these on board your ships. This is where the emission cost meets. So the emissions of this machine I showed you before equals that. So when you buy your 355th bottle, you're just increasing your emissions. And I have a feeling, I don't know this yet, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I have a feeling you're going to be paying for these emissions down the line. And there's no system in place yet, but ship owners would know there's an EU fuel tax where you pay per ton of fuel you burn. Trust me, you will also be paying the tons of emission you burn here. We also compared it with Tetra Paks. It's slightly better. I'm not suggesting you use Tetra Pak, but it's a better option. And just as a disclaimer, I'm not against plastic. It's a beautiful, fantastic product if it's used the right way. So I just said that. So what is the IMEF initiative? I formed a coalition where Carl is part of it, Maersk is part of it, Dana is part of it, where we wanted to figure out how we're going to do a life cycle assessment, how we're going to calculate the emissions. There's two ways to do it. There's spend-based, which is financial. There's activity-based, which is real data. And if you're buying paints and chemicals, I can tell you right now that the emissions between a financial-based, spend-based system and activity-based is a difference of 40% more if you take the spend-based system. So we formed a group trying to figure out how we're going to do activity-based emissions. And next week in London, where Carl and I is going to be, we're going to launch the very first IMEF initiative where we have done a two-pager that's going to go out to the entire ship supply community, producing community, on how to calculate the emissions when reporting into the ship owners. We've got over 20,000 companies supporting this already here in Europe. So we've done this for you, we've done it for free. Right, Carl? So that's the next thing. So just to end this on a note, by saying yes to ImpaSave, you're saving emissions, tick. You're saving cost, tick. You're saving waste, tick. And I always come back to why so few? Why are not more joining this? It's not that hard. So say no to plastic bottles on board your ships. There's a lot more things. I am going to be here at the Stena stand today, tomorrow, at the dinner in the evening. Come talk to me. Come talk to Carl if you've got questions. And if you're working for a ship-owning company and the procurement department or the owner is not here, have him come talk to me. I'll be happy to speak to them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. I know you mentioned it, but I know also that you are supported by Northern Marine Group and Stena. But how strong is the response? You mentioned about 120 companies. The response to align with you. What can they do more?
So, first of all, it's for the ship owners to pledge to this, the catering companies to pledge, if I understand your question correct. We've also got the ship supply community who want to be engaged, but they can't pledge to it because they're just selling the product. Mm-hmm. But what many companies have done, that includes DSF, they put cartoned water on board ships or the ability to supply it. It wasn't available 2 years ago worldwide. It is now due to ImpaSave. But we don't want them to employ the carton. We actually want to get rid of it all and just produce the water on board, which is possible. Mm-hmm. But it's very hard to get people to commit to it. And I just want to tell a side note, I talked to a very large ship supplier in Singapore last year. They're bringing in 6 40-foot containers a week just for water that's delivered on board ships. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. It's just throwing money away, if you ask me. Mm-hmm.
So if you could summarize, what's the first step for companies to actually improve their environmental footprint?
Well, on ImpaSave it's easy. You go on www.impasave.org, and it's easy to pledge. It takes 5 minutes. You're not paying anything. You're just committing your ships, and you're showing up as a support of this community. And we have this saying that the more we are, the more we can influence the others. So that's what we're going for.
So that's your key takeaway?
Absolutely.
That's good.
Be part of influencing.
Thank you so much, Mikael Karlsson, for your personal and very valuable message.